Greetings, math fans. All right, so this is day 1 of chapter 8a, and basically the title of this chapter is factoring. Okay, it's really an important concept that we are going to cover in this chapter. So let's get started here. The first thing we're going to talk about is something called GCF. All right, and it doesn't quite say it here, but GCF stands for greatest common factor. Okay, so what the greatest common factor is basically a number that goes into a number. So let me throw out the number you're looking at just randomly. If I said 8 and 12, what number goes into 8 and 12? What's the largest number? Okay, well 4. 4 goes into 8 twice, and 4 goes into 12 3 times. So my greatest common factor is 4. And that's what you're doing for these problems, okay? Greatest common factor is the biggest number that goes into all the numbers that are in the polynomial, okay? So let's get started here, and I'm going to show you a specific way I want you guys to do it. And so just kind of follow along. So we get the first thing is the number part, which I just covered here. That's where I said that 4 was our greatest common factor. That's the first part here. Okay, it says look for the largest number that will divide all numbers evenly. Only need to look at the factors of the smallest number. All right. So in other words, I have the 8 and the 12. I only need to look at really 8, and then whatever number goes into 8 also has to go into 12. Okay, so we'll get into some examples here in a little bit. And the second part here, math fans, is look at the smallest exponent of the common base. So in other words, if I have x squared and I have x to the 5th power, this is the smallest exponent. So my greatest common factor for this one would be x squared. I look for the smallest exponent. So it's x squared. So if I had x to the 6th, x to the 9th, and x to the 3rd, my greatest common factor would be x to the 3rd. It's the smallest exponent with the same base. So it's got to have an x. They all have to have x's in order for this to work. Okay? All right, so let's get started with the problem. It says factor out the greatest common factor. So first of all, this one has an x and then it has no variable at all. So I don't have to worry about the x's. Only time I have to worry about a variable is when they all have a variable. Okay? So basically, what goes into 3 and what goes into 6 evenly? Well, the greatest common factor, so the greatest common factor is 3. 3 goes into 3 and 3 goes into 6. They go into both. So this is what I want you guys to do. I want you to divide each of these by the greatest common factor. Divide each by 3. And then on your answer blank, you're going to put that 3 that you just divided by, and inside the parentheses, you're going to divide that. So 3x divided by 3 is x. Negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. This, math fans, is your final answer. It's 3 parentheses x minus 2. Okay, that's factoring the greatest common factor. Now if I multiply this out, 3 times x is 3x, 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. I get the original answer. Okay, but you're not doing this because it doesn't make sense, but it's a good way to check it. Okay, but this, what I just wrote here, right here, that is your answer. 3 parentheses, x minus 2, close parenthesis. Okay? Not bad. So this next one, do you understand there's a 1 here? If there's a 1, there's no greatest common factor for the number. You can ignore it because there is no number. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the smallest exponent. The smallest exponent is actually x, because this is x to the 1. That's really the smallest exponent. So my greatest common factor is x. So I'm going to divide each of these by x. So x squared divided by x, first I'm going to put the x in front, which is you always put the greatest common factor in front. So remember x squared over x to the 1 is just x, and x divided by x just cancels, so it's plus 4. And this is my final answer. Okay, now again, if I wanted to check it, it's really easy because I just multiply it out. X times x is x squared. X times 4 is plus 4x. And that's what I got. That's my original problem, x squared plus 4x. Okay, but again, whatever isn't highlighted, that's my answer. Okay, so the next one. There's no x here, so it's just a number. Well, what goes into 3 and 9? Well, 3, but I'm going to take a negative 3 out. Okay? If you took a positive 3, that would be okay too. Not a big deal. So I get negative 3, and then in parentheses, negative 3 divided by negative 3. That cancels out, and you just have x. And then 9 divided by negative 3 is minus 3. So that is my answer. Again, if I tested it out, if I multiplied it out, negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. So that's what you get for the original answer. Okay? All right. Let's keep going here. This isn't too bad here. So now we got a combination of both. I have the number, so what goes into 2 and what goes into 10. Do you guys agree the greatest common factor is 2, that's the number part, and then this has x squared and this has x. So it's just 2x. It's the smallest exponent. So my greatest common factor is 2x. That means I divide each of these by 2x. And I get 2x, and then in parentheses, 2x squared divided by 2x is just x. And minus 10 divided by 2 is 5. So it's minus 5, and the x's cancel. So that is my answer, math fans. 2x times x minus 5. Okay? All right, now we get to, I have no numbers here over in front of this one, so there's no number. Again, I'm looking for the smallest exponent. Do you guys agree I have x squared and x squared? So my greatest common factor is x squared. Anything with a y? This one has a y, that one doesn't. So y is not part of it. So I'm going to divide each of these by x squared. And I get x squared in parentheses then will be the x squareds cancel. I just get y. And the x squareds cancel, and I just get minus 3. And that's your answer. Okay? Number 6, I have an x in one and a y in another. So there's no variable that's the greatest common factor. It's just a number. And what goes into 8 and 16? Well, 8 does. So the greatest common factor is 8. So divide each of these by 8. So you get 8 parentheses x plus 2y. Okay, again, you can check it by multiplying it out. And you get the same problem you started with, number 6. All right, let's keep going here. Gets a little more complicated because you got 3 terms. No big deal. Do you guys agree this has no a in it? So a is not part of the greatest common factor. But I have a 4, and I have a 12, and I have a 20. Well, again, you always want to look at the smallest number here. So what goes into 4? Well, 2 and 2, but doesn't 4 go into it? And doesn't 4 go into 12? And doesn't 4 go into 20? So my greatest common factor for this one is 4. So I'm going to divide each of these by 4. So you get 4 parentheses a squared, right? Because 4 divided by 4 is 1, so I just get a squared, and that's plus 3a, and then plus 5. Okay? So this one's got an x in it and an x cubed. So I know my greatest common factor is going to have an x in it, but 8 goes into 8 1 times, and 8 goes into 56 actually 7 times. So my greatest common factor is 8x. So I'm going to divide each of these by 8x. So I get 8x on the outside of the parentheses. On the inside, 8x divided by 8x actually is just 1, cancels out. Minus 56 divided by 8 is 7. And then x cubed over x to the first is x squared. Okay, it looks a little complicated, but that's your answer. Okay, that's this guy right here too. Okay, it's not bad. All right, so 14 and 28. Well, and this one has a u squared and a u. So my greatest common factor is definitely a u, and it's also 14u. Because 14 goes into 14, and 14 goes into 28. 2 times 14 is 28. So divide each of these by 14u, and I get 14u times that. If I divide that out, that number cancels, and u squared over u is just u, and that's a 2 and a 1, and the u's cancel here, so it's u plus 2. And then 14u on the outside. And again, if you double check it, 14u times u is 14u squared. And 14u times 2 is plus 28u, which is exactly what I started out with. Okay, so that's your answer. It's not too bad. Okay, let's keep going here. Okay, they get a little more complicated, but no big deal. So I look at the a's. Do you guys agree the smallest exponent is a cubed? So my greatest common factor is a cubed, and the smallest b is b squared. They both have b squared. And there's no number. That's a 4, and there's a 1, so there's nothing that goes into both of them. So I'm going to divide everyone by a cubed and b squared. A cubed and b squared. Okay, so I'll put that on the outside. Make sure you do that. A cubed, b squared, and then basically what cancels is you just wind up with a left over, and then plus 4, because the a cubes and the b squareds cancel. So that's your answer. A cubed b squared times a plus 4. Not bad. Okay, 11. I want you to look closely, math fans. Here's a 4, 9, and a 6. Okay, nothing goes into any of those. Okay, because the only thing that goes into 4 is 4 and 1 and 2, and 2 doesn't go into 9, and 3 and 3 go into 9, but doesn't go into 4. So there's no number that's greatest common factor. In fact, if you look at the variable, this is x cubed, y squared, and z. They're completely different. So basically, we say this is prime. Prime means you can't factor. You can't. There's nothing you can take out of there. Okay. Number 12. Well, do you guys agree that you have a 3, a 3, a 6, and a 9? So my greatest common factor equals 3. And this is b6, b to the 5th, b to the 4th, b squared. So that's my smallest exponent. So it's b squared. So I divide each of these by 3b squared. Okay, so the first one's going to give me, let me write this out, 3b squared. First one's going to give me 3b is 6 divided by 3b squared. It's 6 over 2, right? So it's just going to be b to the 4th. Okay, this one, the 3's cancel as well. So I'm going to get b to the 5th over b squared is plus b, or sorry, no 3, plus b to the 3rd power. Okay, and then minus 6 over 3, so minus 2. That's b squared. B to the 4th over b squared is b squared. And then the b squareds cancel, and I just get plus 3. That's it. So 3b squared times b to the 4th plus b cubed minus 2b squared plus 3. Okay, so we'll get rid of that little mistake over there. All right, not bad. Let's keep going here. Okay, so again, getting a little more complicated, but you have a 15, you have a 9, and you have a 6. So my greatest common factor equals 3 goes into each of those. And then look for the smallest m, that's m to the 6th, m to the 4th, m squared, so m squared. And then look for the n's. N squared, there is no n for this one, so that means that's just my greatest common factor, 3m squared. Okay, so we're going to divide each of these by 3m squared. So 3m squared, and then you get 5m to the 4th n. Oops, let's get rid of that parenthesis. Okay, and then plus 3m squared, and then minus 2n squared. That's it, dividing it out. It's not bad. Okay, so the next one, number 14, there's no number, just variables. So I am going to factor out the smallest exponent there. For a is a squared. So I'm going to factor out, my greatest common factor is just a squared. So I'm going to divide each of these by a squared. And notice I always divide each one out. It's really difficult sometimes when you don't write that out there. I think it gets complicated. So a to the 8th over a to the 6th, or a to the 2nd is a to the 6th. Remember, you subtract, and then 5 minus 2 is 3, plus a cubed. A squared over, or a to the 4th over a squared is a squared, and a squared over a squared is 1. Okay, that's your answer. Again, you could double check it by multiplying it all out, and you see you get the right answer. Okay, this next one, you have a 12, you have an 18, you have a 6. So your greatest common factor, 6 goes into each of these. Remember, you always look at the smallest one and see what goes into that. Well, 2 and 3, but 6 goes into everything. So you have 6, and then this is a cubed, a squared, a, so 6a, and then b squared, b cubed, and then back down to b. So 6ab is our greatest common factor. So I can divide everything by 6ab. And I get 2a squared b. Okay, because a cubed over a to the first. If you need to, put a 1 here. So you subtract, you battle. Okay, minus 3, a squared over a is a. B cubed over b is b squared. Okay, and then this one, 6 over 6 is 1, so it's just, that cancels out. And actually the a and b's cancel out too, because they're all coefficient of 1s, and they all cancel out. So that's, when everything cancels, don't just put 0, it's plus 1. Okay, and then in front, of course, is 6ab. Okay, so that is our answer. Okay, not bad, not bad. Okay, so the next one, 7 goes in 7, 7 goes in 28, 7 goes in 35. So my greatest common factor is 7, and then c cubed, c squared, c, so it's just c. And there's nothing for d's in this one, then there's d and d cubed. So you have to set, you can't put a d there. Okay, because you're not pulling a d out, because this one, this guy does not have a d. So truly I'm dividing everything by 7c. And I get 7c times, all right, and then it's going to be c cubed over c if you want to put the 1 there, so it's c squared. And that's going to be minus 4 CD, and then plus 5 C, or it's actually C's cancel, so we just have D cubed. And that's it. So if I multiply it all out again, I should get 7C cubed minus 28C squared D plus 35C D cubed. Okay? So again, they get a little tricky, but not too bad. Okay, so what am I pulling out of this one? Well, definitely no number, because it says a 5, that has a 12, and this doesn't have a number. So smallest m, well, that one has an m, that one has an m squared, so m squared. So my greatest common factor going to be m and n. Okay, that's it. So divide each by m and n, m and n, m and n. And basically with this first one I get a, let me write m n parentheses, I get a 1 minus or plus 5, and then m squared over m is m, n squared over n is n, and that's it. So minus 12 m n squared. Okay, that's it. And again, it's really easy to multiply together. Mn times 1, mn. Mn times 5mn, 5m squared n squared. And mn times negative 12 is m squared. So it's negative 12 m squared n cubed. Okay. The next one, do you guys agree that my greatest common factor is 3? And look for the variables. Well, there's a small x and a small y, so it's 3xy. So divide each one by 3xy. I get 3xy times, okay, it's going to be x cubed over x is x squared. Y cubed over y is y squared. And then it's going to be plus 4. And you guys agree the xy is just canceled. That's it. Okay, not bad. Okay, last one here. Basically, I have an x squared and I have an x, and what goes into 6 and 18, the 6 goes into it. and it's negative, so my greatest common factor is negative 6x. We'll divide by negative 6. I get x, or so negative 6x, parenthesis, and that's going to give me just x, and that's going to give me plus 3. Okay, and again, you distribute it, and you get negative 6x squared minus 18x. And that's it, I believe, math fans. I don't think there's anything after this. Nope. That's it. All right, so hopefully you guys learned about greatest common factor, looking for numbers first, look for the smallest number, and then also look for the variable, okay, the smallest exponent. And if there is no variable for one of the terms, that's not part of the greatest common factor. Okay? So that is it, math fans. You have an outstanding day. Adios. Goodbye.